This week on Higher Self Mastery, I have a wonderful guest that I cannot wait for you to meet, Dirish Shaktidas. Dirish is the founder of the Somatic Dance Academy and creator of Euphoria Somatic Dance. He also leads the Somatic Wellness Project, CIC, and directs the world's first somatic dance convention. Raised between Mauritius and London, Dirish blends movement, breath, sound, and ancient wisdom to create transformative experiences that get people out of their heads and fully into their bodies. With over 15 years of guiding classes, retreats, and trainings worldwide, he creates spaces where everyone is seen, heard, and celebrated. He is the Amazon #1 best-selling author of Chakrasize Your Life, 7 Steps to Dancing Your Inner Wisdom, and brings the world's beats and rhythms in sets that pump life back into your heart and your soul. He has been featured in the British Museum, London College of Fashion, Yoga Magazine, Mind, Body, Spirit, Wanderlust TV, and The Shard. This is a wonderful conversation that I cannot wait for you to hear. So without further ado, let's dive straight into it. Welcome to Higher Self Mastery, the podcast for women ready to leave behind who they were told to be and remember who they truly are. I'm your host, Dharmi Schumacher. This is your space to come home to yourself, to honor the inner pull for more truth and more depth, and more meaning as you enter a new chapter of your life. Together, we're reframing midlife crisis into the midlife magic that it actually is, because this is your rebirth. Through soulful conversations and spiritual tools, you'll reconnect to your truth and reclaim your voice and live the life that your soul came here for. So let's begin. Hello, Dirish. Welcome to the Higher Self Mastery podcast. This is such an honor to have you. I'm so excited for our listeners to dive into this conversation. How are you today?
I am divine. I'm uplifted. I'm great. And I'm so excited and happy to be here with you, Dharmi.
Thank you so much for agreeing to do this. So, Dirish, for my listeners who may not be familiar with you, I would love it if you could just introduce yourself, explain who you are, what you do, who you serve, and just tell us a little bit about your world.
Sure. So my name is Dirish Shaktidas. I am British-born Mauritian living in London, and I have been in the world of art, movement, music, meditation, dance for as long as I can remember. And what I've been doing for almost the last 20 years is really deep dive into the more sacred movement side of yoga, somatic dance, meditation, movement. And I am the founder and director of my Somatic Dance Academy and the Euphoria Somatic Dance certifications that I do and courses that I've been running for a little bit now. And I'm also a really proud co-founder of my Somatic Wellness Project, which is a CIC project that gives a lot to the community back, free wellness events and workshops that I do with my team. So this work is not just work, it's my mission, it's my passion, and I really enjoy, doing what I do because it's just so important and powerful because I've been somebody who has been repressed, suppressed, like my expression, my energy, because I didn't think I was good enough. I was from a very a very limited way of looking at life from my family growing up. And it was very much like, I'm sure any kind of South Asian listening to this can relate. Like, you have to get a good job, you have to be a doctor, you have to be a lawyer, you have to be all these titles that they put on you. And, my family they've come from a small island in Mauritius to make a better life for themselves in the UK. However, in the UK, there are multiple opportunities, and you can be more than just the limited aspect of what, a lot of South Asian families, when they migrate to the UK, think of. So, and, we are we then begin to go to into schools and mix into different communities and different industries that we ourselves are open to so much more than what our parents knew. So
Mm,
for me, I have been someone that's really pushed through because I'm the oldest as myself and my
mm,
sister, and I've really pushed through for the norms, and I've had to because I've like, well, I'm doing me, and I've kind of always been that way, doing me, and I've had to make so much sacrifices in that, and not do the normal thing of. I did go to
mm,
university and actually studied
yeah,
graphic design, and I was also a fashion stylist on the side because that work just came to me because I was in flow with it, and so I was just having to always reassure my family, I'm doing the right thing. I'm going to uni. Look, I'm going to uni, you know, and these things. But then after I finished uni, I was like, I got to have a break from education because it was so drilled into me growing up. Like I would do, I'd go to school like everybody 5 days a week, but then I'd have like extra tuition classes, and then I'd have like Hindi school on the weekend. I'm like, this is not how I want to live my life. This is something that my parents have wanted to envision for us to do to become. And I get it. Like now that I'm older, I get why they wanted us to do that. They wanted us to like, have excellence, have, make sure that we're doing great in our lives. And back then I didn't see it like that. But obviously, once you start growing and you start figuring life out for yourself, you kind of get it. Their best interests were for us, not to
yeah,
punish or, anything like that for us. So I have a much more deeper respect now to how life works and how you've got to just, um, do what you got to do in a way that's going to serve your highest self, which I really
yeah,
appreciate what the title of your podcast is.
yeah.
So I've written a book which almost 3 years ago now, which is called
Mm,
Sacrifice Your Life, 7 Steps to Dancing Your Inner Wisdom. And that is really a journey of my journey of how I got here through each chakra. Each chapter is dedicated to a specific part of my life where I really had to work through. So it's less of a like, oh, here's what this one can do and that one could. It's more about the experience because when you're working with energy centers, which are the chakras, it's energetic, it's experiential. So a lot of my book is about that, is about my journey and
mm,
what I've had to go through to kind of get to the other side, to have more acceptance, more ownership of who I am, and confidence was a big one I had to work through, and
mm,
strength and heart as well, and working through a lot of and decolonizing a lot of the things growing up with, and
mm.
all of the programs, conditioning, indoctrinations, etc., to be able to sit here and have this conversation with you.
Amazing. Oh my gosh. I'm nodding away to like all of that. Dito, dito, dito. So resonate. Like it's almost like you and I have these parallel lives and upbringings.
Yeah.
To a certain point, and not to go off on a complete tangent, but I
Mm,
same upbringing, not South Asian, but of Indian descent,
yeah.
same sort of thinking. Parents sacrificed a lot to come here to give us new opportunities, but like you said, they then opened us up to so much more beyond anything they knew and could understand. And then for people like us who I believe karmically came here to be those trailblazers, to be those cycle breakers, to really show people how to come back to ourselves. We were considered the black sheep because we pushed back on everything. Even though we had respect and love for what they were doing, it was just like, thank you, but no, no, that is not my path. And I get it like so much. Like I ended up going to university to do interior design, despite my dad's ambitions and hopes for me to become a doctor or a lawyer. Uh, so all of those things. Yep, all of those things. Um, so I can but as you said, as you get older, not only can you appreciate more where they were coming from, and they were doing the best that they could with what they had, and so there's never any fault or judgment ever placed on them, but at the same time as well, just better appreciate that if I hadn't had the challenges that I had to get to where I am today, I would not be quite carved out in the robust, fiery way that I am now. Like maybe I would have just sort of skipped through life and not really pushed and sought out the things that really make me come alive. But because I had to fight for them, I didn't take them for granted. And I really made sure I did, took them to places and did things with it. So, yeah, for sure, like everybody, our experiences shape us. So, as challenging as that was, it's all for the good, because look at where we are today, like guiding other people to do similar things, you through your somatic work, me
Whoa.
through my mind mastery,
Yeah.
but essentially it's about, come on guys,
Yeah.
reclaim your power and come home to who you really are. So just a bit of a background for the listeners here. So Dirish and I actually met almost exactly a year ago.
Wow.
Yes, almost a year ago, through a gorgeous organization called Base, and that we both work with. And so even though I've met Dirish on a few occasions now in person, and we've had the pleasure of going through somatic work together, I've attended some of Dirish's classes, and we've danced and we've raved and we've moved that energy through us. A lot of what you're going to share today, and a lot of what you've already just shared, is actually news to me, because we've never really been in that environment where we've been able to have a conversation for longer than 5 or 10 minutes out of the crazy festival vibe, have we? So this is going to be really interesting for me as well, and I'm really excited to learn more about you, Dirish, as you share with the audience. So you explained some of the more personal background there. Tell me and tell my listeners, what was it? When did you feel the tug and the pull for dancing and moving and yoga? How did that specific part of your
Oh.
journey begin? Yeah, tell us a little bit about that. How did you come to do what you're doing exactly
Sure.
right now?
Growing up, I was always into expressing, dancing,
Mm,
and even like dancing to Bollywood music, like in
mm,
Bollywood movies, because that's what was playing a lot in my household growing
mm,
up, and watching all the different Bollywood, I'd call them Bollywood deities, because the way they'd move and express themselves, like Sri Devi and Rika, and those two are the greatest divas of Bollywood for me, and they really like hugely inspired me, because they were literally like living deities, beautiful, and I wanted to really emulate that more. And I remember when I was going to like family events and there'd be a dance floor and I would dance, and I remember this, like I would dance and I would just start, something about the music was just
yeah.
beating something in me to have a cathartic shake or shift. It was like, wow, this is more than a dance now. There's something that's actually cathartic and moving strongly. And I
Mm,
didn't really, like, as I was younger, I didn't really examine that. I kind of left it where it was. And it was only later in life, when, okay, so okay, story time. I went to a boys' school and I got bullied. And because I was being my expressive self. I'd go to school with like blonde hair one day and get bullied, and I thought, I gotta run away from this. This is really not me. Like I'm depressed right now. I'm not happy.
this was
And
in Mauritius
no, this is in
or here?
London. And I was born here.
Oh,
Just like, so my
oh,
family's
okay.
from Mauritius.
Okay,
I was
right.
born
Beg your
here.
pardon. Okay,
You're
beg your
good.
pardon.
So I kind of ran away from that boys' school, and my friend was like, "You should apply to this performing arts school." I'm like, "What?" Performing arts school? What? My parents would never say yes to it, but I did it anyway. I was like, right, this is my,
Amazing.
this is my, this is my ticket out of the darkness, and I can like, get out of all of this, of this constant bullying, and it was giving me PTSD. Like I was getting really triggered to go to school. I was actually Skype school a lot. And then I actually, when I went into, so I went to the Brit School of Performing Arts, the legendary, which I
Right.
didn't know at the time because it was still up and coming. And I went in with such a strong um, determination to be like, this is why I should be here. And I think when I went with my dad was like, he'd never seen me speak like that before. And he was like, wow, okay. And he was like, and he looked at the school and goes, wow, this school is better than the other school that you're at. So I was like, yes, I'm getting a stamp of approval. And I got into the Brit school and it was
Great.
amazing. It was such like this kind of like hallelujah moment, like out of the darkness into the light.
Amazing.
and and it was great. I was exposed to so many type of different creatives, and like even though I was still introverted, like no one ever seemed to believe that I was an introvert, because I was introverted. And then, however, like through that experience, I met so many different types of individuals and kept in touch. And I saw a lot of them go to stardom and everything like that. And
Mm.
like, wow, if it's possible for them, maybe one day it might be for me. Like, I just, because you can't be what you can't see, right? That's the narrative a lot. Like, and that's what kind of, it kind of left a long-term kind of impact on me. I had that experience. My parents took me out. They're like, "No, we want proper, we want proper results now. This is like
Yeah.
no time for you." And I'm like, fine. So I went back to like a normal college, and then I left, and then I went into. So I had a year out after uni and everything. I had a year of education done. I need to pour back into me. So I went traveling. And
Mm.
when I went traveling, I thought, wow, this is a whole new world. This is everything I've been wanting to do for the longest time.
Mm.
And I stumbled across this yoga retreat, and I thought I really wanted to do that. And something just, I think when I was breathing, something just clicked. I'm like, oh my God, this is the missing piece. Because just crossing timelines, I was working in fashion and I was burnt out because the way I was
Mm.
treated, I didn't have any boundaries then. I was still learning myself. I was like 19 or something or 20. And then I was also working in graphic design. I was kind of dilly-dallying in that. And so that point of me traveling was like, wow, I'm by myself in this foreign world now because I decided to travel. I've never been by myself traveling. It's always been with like family or friends. So this was a big leap for me to take and a big transformation and breakthrough happened by doing this yoga retreat. And I'm like, good. And I was being exposed to different types of ways of living, nutrition, all of that stuff, therapies, massage. I just immersed myself. And then when I went to Malaysia, I was staying with family friends there, and I was still on my kind of year out, and I thought, okay, I really want to do something that can nurture my art, my artistry, because I trained as an artist, and then I was introduced to this brilliant, brilliant artist who has a place called the House of Symbols, and
Mm.
he's South Indian, and so his artwork was just incredible. Different deities, and mainly the Hindu deity of Ganesha was beautiful. But also he would host like classes that were like art therapy, and I'm like, oh, this is so cool. Like I'm learning so much by being in his presence and kind of being his like disciple, I guess. And then he introduced me to this dance form called Odissi. It's a classical Indian dance form, which is a temple dance. And I'm like, I looked at this guy dancing, and my teacher was like, yeah, can you believe he's in his 50s? I'm like, he's 50, he's got a body like a 20-year-old. That is the model. I want to do that. So when I came back to London, I kind of like was like, okay, I've got all this inspiration. I want to do that here. So
Mm.
I signed myself up to work at a yoga center. Well, it was more like a spiritual center because they had so many different types of things going on. And I signed up to work there part time and in their cafe. So I learned all about food, superfoods, veganism, all of that stuff. And that was so enlightening to me. And then I learned all these different yoga styles. And there was like, then I also signed myself up for the classical Indian dance course that was
Mm.
happening in West London. So I did all of that. I was just really immersed in my own bubble and it was great.
Mm.
And then and then a friend invited me to Five Rhythms. And I was like, ooh, then this like cathartic thing again was like coming back because we had this in the phase of it. There's a phase called chaos. And that was really like something tribal, cathartic was coming through. And I'm like, this is powerful stuff. Like, wow, this is dance. Like, I'm not in a club, I'm in a sober space.
Yeah.
The DJ that's facilitating. This is so
Yeah.
out there. This is so underground and so niche. And then I kept going because it became medicinal. But I was also doing Kundalini yoga, a lot of like the energetic yoga stuff. And I'm
Wow.
like, wouldn't it be great? I was like putting it out there. I really would like a practice that is like I was really specific, like that was conscious dance, Kundalini yoga, and meditation. And then where I was working at the time was called Alchemy, incredible, like way ahead of its time. Had this dance class that I was going to, and I was like, oh, I thought it was just for women. But all of the dance teacher was like, no, no, you can join. And I was like, oh my God, this is it. This is it. It had literally all the elements of
Beautiful.
everything I've been searching for. So I was going to it like religiously. Became my little go to. And then the teacher was like, do you want to do the training? I'm like, the training. And at that point I was in the yes mode of like, yes, let's do it. Yes, yes. So I did the training, um, passed with flying colors, obs. I really pushed myself and really wanted to like, do this. And I had so much like transformation in the dance and the breath and the, dancing with the different deities. So like all of the things that I was kind of like exposed to growing up was now coming together in this kind of
Mm.
cultural, spiritual way. And I was like, wow, this is my thing. It's not just the yoga.
Wow.
This is my, and I was like, what, 28? No, 26. I was quite young. I just kind of like,
Yeah.
I just went for it. And then from then, I just continued growing that. And I got so many opportunities quickly because back then in the wellness world, there was nobody that looked like
Yeah.
me. There was hardly any men, hardly any South Asian men doing what I was doing. And because I was doing dance, it made it even more like this is so different.
Yes.
It's kind of like disrupting the space of just like holding a warrior two, or
Yes.
you know. Um, and so then I began to get lots of different opportunities to do things on different shows and all sorts of stuff. So it just began to snowball and really beautifully. And because because I was following my own bliss, and I wasn't
Yeah.
letting anything interrupt, because I had a lot of interruptions in the past and I let things, influence me in a way that I was like not really into. But however, like I always had this guiding force that this is where I'm supposed to be going towards. And that helped me with my own energy work that I was doing. I ended up becoming
Mm.
an energy worker. I did training in that as well. So those two things are so bonkers and bizarre to everybody who I knew outside of that wellness world.
Yeah.
And now today it's become so accessible and so like,
Mm.
mainstream now, which is
Yeah.
amazing. And for me to have honed all that skill during my 15 years, it has built a lot of confidence and certainty in what I'm doing, why I'm doing
Mm.
it. And I'm very much embodied in what I do because I've been
Mm.
committed and devoted and shown up for it. And because I know the
Yeah.
power of it. When you know the power of something, you want to continue to kind of charge yourself up. So
Yeah.
yeah, so that's just kind of led
Wow.
me into like, yeah, where I am today.
What I heard well, I heard a lot in that. Again, a lot that I resonated with. But what I really want to extract and highlight again for the listeners, if because there was so much beautiful storytelling and information in that, in case they
Yeah,
missed it, was one, your courage to follow what innately felt like your calling, what was right from a very young age, for you to have done as much as you have done in the right space. Of course, there was um, a journey you had to go on to try and figure out which bits of what felt most resonant for you and how you wanted to amalgamate that together to make it your own special secret sauce, so to speak. um and that's just natural. That's what everyone has to do. But the fact that you stayed on that track from such an early age is why you are, I feel, one of the reasons, not the only reason, of course, but one of the reasons why you are one of the leaders in your industry here. Because you never, even if you got discouraged, even if other people try to sow those seeds of doubt in you, like, what are you doing? Why don't you get a normal job, a 9 to 5 job, and all of those things, right? You stayed on track to what was your purpose, what was in your heart, and what was innately aligned for you. So, and this, you are living proof to people out there who may have had these nudges and may have even been aware of what those nudges are and those little tugs, but for out of fear or out of doubt or whatever it is, they have kept on stepping it and not really followed it. But you're such a beautiful example and demonstration of what can um come out at the end when somebody does follow their purpose, when someone does follow their true calling and their talents and their gifts, and are not shy about then sharing it with the world. The other thing that that really stood out for me in all of this, in what you said as well, is this divine timing. Like the universe always presents us with things at the right time. And sometimes, like we talk a lot about manifestation on this show. It's always a part of a conversation. And sometimes, there's this feeling that, but I'm doing everything right, but it's not happening for me. But I just feel like your story there of how things unfolded and how, because you stayed aligned and just kept with the journey and not even knowing that full trust and surrender of not knowing where this is going to end up, how it's going to end up, but this feels right in the moment, so I'm just going to go with it. The next thing feels right in the moment, so I'm going to just go with it. And then opportunities open up. And if it feels aligned, saying yes, following that expansive feeling. And then, like you said, back then, 20 years ago, yoga itself here in the Western world was just starting to blow up, only just starting to blow up, right? And maybe in a little bit more in places like London, but everywhere else it was still pretty much unheard of, right? It's nothing like it is today. And so you are really, really at that cutting edge of the wellness industry, where especially you had this beautiful, unique combination of how you were bringing in the dance and the meditation, the spiritual aspect, the yoga, it's just all of that, the energy work as well. And wowzers, like the energy work that you must have been doing, I can't even begin to imagine, like practicing and studying the Kundalini yoga as well as doing 5 rhythms. So just before we press record, Dirish and I were like, yeah, 5 rhythms, because we're both big 5 rhythms fans. And for those of you who are unfamiliar listening and like, what's 5 rhythms? Google it, right? But it's basically, and go do it. Go find your nearest place and go do it. But as Dirish said, it's like this sober dance experience where you're guided through a series of different expressive movements. And because you're guided through the different, what would you call them, Dirish? Like you said,
Phases?
Yeah. Phases? Let's call them phases.
Steps or phases?
Yeah, different types of dance styles, so to speak. The energy moves in a very different way. And so for you to be doing Kundalini practice as well as that at the same time, I can only just begin to imagine, holy moly, how much you were moving. Wowzers. And that's going to bring us beautifully into, if you wouldn't mind, Dirish, because the word somatic, like all things, at some point we begin to hear certain words, certain phrases, certain tools, and they tend to become like trendy or, popularized. And so we hear the word somatic a lot now in the wellness industry. But for a lot of people tuning in today, although they may have heard of this, they may not know what this actually means. Now, you are the expert here. So please, would you mind just giving us a basic 101 explanation of what somatic therapy or somatic healing is, however you best phrase it, so the listeners who maybe are new to this can better understand what on earth it is we're talking about, because then in a moment, we're going to dive a little deeper into the world of somatic movement and healing, because I really would love you to share your expertise in the different ways that this can be experienced and how this can also benefit people, and why people should even go out there and try it, right? So, but if we begin with the basic 101 explanation to someone who's really new to this, what is somatic movement or what is somatic therapy?
So I'm not going to give you a textbook answer, because I think because it's such a personal, it's very personal to each and every one. But to put it like as simply as I can, somatic means body. It's a Greek term, soma. It's a Greek term. And interestingly, because I've come from a yoga background and I was brought up Hindu, Sanskrit has always been in my field and my world. So soma in Sanskrit, it means nectar. And it's quite poetic, because you can imagine that we are living in a liquid form body, but to know that it is nectar is something sacred. And when I married those two terms together, it's like we're living in this crystallized body. And if you look at how we are so close, we are nature, we are the embodiment of nature, because if you look at the crystals, and you can see, and if you look closely, that they have threads of fascia in them. And we are connected to that because we are fascia. That's what holds our muscles together. That's what holds our body together. So when it comes to working with the word somatic, it's working for my definition because it's always changing as I'm learning. But for this moment, somatic is a relationship with your internal body. And it's learning all your levels and your layers of what that is, it what you experience that to be on a day-to-day basis. So by slowing down, breathing, being, and learning yourself, you get to explore, you get to listen, you get to build this relationship with your body. um, so that's how I put it simply. I would say, even to simplify that even more, is to have an internal relationship with your body. That is what somatic means to me.
Wow. Wow, what a beautiful explanation. I've never thought of it like that. And I love that. I'm actually going to go back and listen to that again a few times. That was so poetic. And I just had such strong visual imagery as you were saying that. Um, the fascia and the crystallization and it's just taken it to a whole other level for me. Wowzers, I love that. Thank you, Dirish.
Pleasure.
So it's about listening to your body, learning to, and correct me if I'm wrong, so learning to hear, feel, understand, I guess what your body is also trying to tell you. Is that right? Is
Yeah,
that right to
it's
say?
this
Or
relationship that you get to build with your body. Like, so you know when what your no is, you know what your yes is, you know when you're pushing
mm,
too much, you know when you have to slow down, you know
mm,
when it's that wisdom body lived experience, you know.
mm.
And the more we get to learn that, the more we live smarter lives.
Yeah. Yes, I 100%. This is something that it doesn't come so naturally to me, and it still is very much new to me. I'm not going to lie. I'm the first person to tell all of my clients, because of course my area of expertise is mind mastery. I'm about
Yeah.
reprogramming those habits, those behaviors, the mind, all about the mind and thinking. But in the last few years, I've really also, even though I naturally did it because I've been practicing yoga for over 25 years myself as well. So even though from a lived experience, I know the benefits of it, I've really come to appreciate how those two things have to go hand in hand. You can't sometimes when there's so much trauma maybe trapped in our body through a particular experience, or maybe we've brought it in karmically, one of those big life lessons that we've got to move. You can't think your way out of it. You have to get in the body to start moving that energy first. And then it's only when that energy is flowing, then you're able to say, come back into that prefrontal cortex and in your thinking brain say, okay, I see you, I recognize you, now I'm able to change you, now I'm able to do something else and move forward with it. But you can't sometimes go straight to the mind. You have to get in the body first, right? Depending on what it is we're working with. But personally, this is something still that I am trying to adopt and learn, and I'm getting better at it. And that's what it is with anything, isn't it? It's like you just have to keep practicing, and then you get that relationship, like any relationship. And I say this a lot about to my clients and my listeners when they ask, how do you work with your intuition? It's like it's a relationship. You've got to put the work in, and it gets stronger and it gets better and it becomes more supportive and more sure. And in the same way, I'm beginning to see this in my body that, I felt this, and I didn't realize in that moment that that was my body telling me. But in hindsight, now I can see, okay, I should have listened to that. That was that little nudge there. I felt that. I should have listened to that, pay a little bit more attention there. And the more we begin to do that, the deeper that
Mm.
relationship is getting. But can you tell us, Dirish, how does it feel from somebody who's been doing this work for some time, or for somebody who might be new to it? First, actually, yeah, maybe first tell us what the end result is as per your personal experience as it stands today, what kind of things can people benefit from? So obviously, you've said that you can make better decisions. When we say it's in the body, what might somebody actually feel? How
Hmm.
does it speak to you, this relationship? How does your body talk to you?
So number one, I think the most relatable thing is your gut instinct.
Hmm.
You know, how many times have we discarded our gut because we've decided to go into our heads instead of listening to
Hmm.
our gut? And our gut is one of our primordial brains of the body. You know,
Hmm.
if you didn't know that, that is a thing. Your gut is part of your brain. It's an instinctual part of your brain, and you know, what you were talking about before, and just to complement what you were saying, is that, our first response is usually 100% most of the times is the correct response, However, we've been so indoctrinated and to go into the head. That's how we've been conditioned to go into thinking, go into the cerebral rather than listening to the instinctual, because that's what animals do. Animals go with their
Hmm.
instincts, and that's how evolution has evolved. However, like, because we're in a society where the mind is the dominant, is that we get distorted. We just we jump from the body to the head. And what is amazing about somatics, it's about, well, it is about uniting everything. There is no separation. You're not just born with a head stuck onto a body. It's like it's a whole connection that's happening there. There's signalings happening, which is going on with your brain, body, nervous system, as you would know. So I would say definitely gut instinct, to listen to,
Hmm.
just to pause before you send that text message, before you type, before you react. Just lean back, just sleep on it. Sleep on it,
Hmm.
because we're so quick to respond because we're in this fast paced, insta life. However, like, is that going to harm you by
Hmm.
retaliating or reacting, or are you going to really just check in with yourself before you do that? And the thing is, checking in is so important, is what I constantly guide and
Hmm.
remind myself as well. And sometimes I will take time to get back to you. If you're sending me something quite lengthily or important, I will not respond immediately, because I have to be very sure in myself what I'm doing, and very sure about who I am and what I'm representing when I send that. Because when you start to honor yourself and see yourself more than just somebody just that's just in a body living the life, you have responsibilities. You have people looking at you in a certain way. Everyone is very quick. We live in a judgmental society. So if you say one little thing, you can be taken down. So it's really about, you checking in with yourself
Hmm.
before you do an action. And is that action in alignment with who you are, with your values, with what you stand up for? Or are you just retaliating and reacting because those are aspects of ourselves that haven't been worked through? They're actually calling you out to call yourself in to work through those things, so we don't go back into those loops and cycles and patterns which are constantly playing
Hmm.
in our subconscious, and whenever we get triggered. So there's so many lessons, but a lot of us don't want to do the work because, number one, we don't have the tools. Number two, we don't think we can do it. Number three, nobody's modeling it for us. Number four, there's nobody keeping us accountable. So we just go about our days, just being a reacting ball of
Hmm.
of our
That's,
past.
yeah. You just said it there, like as you were saying all of that, and I say it time and time again, like the work here is about learning how to respond, not
Mhm.
react, and that's essentially what you're reiterating here, and that response is taking that breath and taking that pause, however long that is for each of us.
Mhm.
Sometimes that might just be literally a breath or two, or sometimes, like you said, it might be a whole 12 hours or 24 hours,
Yeah.
depending on the situation in front of you.
Oh,
um
goodness. I'll
I
give you a
think,
real go on.
yeah, go on.
I'll give you a real time experience.
Yeah.
Like yesterday, I was literally finishing something up. I had to call in a friend about to discuss something that was, we had to work through, and I did that. Then I got a phone call about something that happened with a venue, and they've done this and they've done that, and you're going to do your event there, and this doesn't look good on you and that. I'm just like, okay, whoa, so you just called to project everything onto me. Great. Thank you. End of the
Oh,
day, perfect.
okay, right,
I'm like,
okay.
I just had to exhale, and then I was like, fine, fine, thank you very much. I'm not gonna make a decision now. I'm gonna sit with this because my body is reacting. So I let it have a reaction. I just, because in those moments I do not make decisions because
Mm.
the body is having to react.
When you say your body was reacting, what
Right.
were the
So
sensations you
right, I was
felt?
like, I was angry, I was annoyed,
Mm,
I was
mm,
triggered. Like all of these things were coming up to the surface. I'm like, oh,
mm.
I've just dealt with something, and now something else I've got to kind of deal with. And it's fine. It's just, what I've learned and what I'm learning, because I'm always a student first. Um, this is the lesson that's coming up a lot for me, is to how to, I don't know if I'm still, if this phrasing is correct, but how to get comfortable with the uncomfortable.
Mm.
And I think it's just, I don't know if that's the right phrasing, because how can you ever be comfortable?
Oh no, it is.
Really?
It is.
Because
That's what I use it all the time, and
how
that's what
to
I
be
tell my
comfortable with the
clients to do all the time.
uncomfortable? Because like, or how to like maybe it's to normalize it, because that's
It's
what's going to
about
come up.
accepting it and surrendering to it, that being uncomfortable is very much part of just living life. And
Yeah,
also, that's where the growth is. If you don't go through it,
yeah,
then you're never changing, you're never
no, and you,
evolving, you're never becoming a better version of yourself, because then
no,
you're just going to stay stuck in those
the
old cycles,
loops, yeah.
which isn't fun.
Which isn't fun. So, and like I think that because I've done this work for the longest time, I'm not throwing my toys out the pram. Like I
Ah,
might, but then I'll know like don't want to do it to your face. I'll do it in my own moment when I'm dancing, or for instance, like if I'm going to be doing a dance session, a somatic dance session, I know what I've got to move in my body. So I will
yeah,
set an intention. I'm like, right, I'm going to set the intention. I'm going to move this anger in my body that's been sitting
yeah,
here. I'm going to locate where it is, and I'm going to give it freedom. And I'm going to give it space to the music that's coming on, and let my body just have its moment of cathartism or
yeah.
shaking or whatever it is. And
So
that's sort of,
yesterday, did you dance then?
I
To move
shook.
that, you shook
I
it off.
shook
Okay,
because
maybe it was a bit late to do a full dance, but
yeah, but I was just shaking on the street,
yeah.
just like just moving it, because my body
Okay,
was deciding to do that anyway. But if you look at
okay,
animals, like animals shake things off. They don't,
yeah,
it's a primal thing to shake it off,
yeah. Oh,
and
what a
that's
great
what it's,
example. Yes, you're right. They
yeah,
do, don't they? Especially after they've been chased by a
mm,
predator or something. They do that whole. I
yeah,
can't
they
do it,
shake
but
it off.
yeah.
It's a primal thing, and that's something that a lot of us have either forgotten or unaware of, or we
Mm,
think it's savage to do, because we have to be prim and proper, especially if you're living in the British culture world. You've got to, it's a standard way, otherwise you'd just be labeled as someone that's, got mental health issues or something.
unfortunately, yeah.
But
Yes.
the narrative is changing. I think everyone's looking for so many alternative ways to move away from like the prescription types or talk therapy, even because
Mm,
talk therapy can be quite, I'm not knocking it, but I'm just saying it can be quite a lot, where you're still storing stuff in your body, but you're continuing to speak it out. And what I really think, and what I know to be powerful and true, is that in somatic dance, it is a combination of
yeah.
breath work, dance, movement, meditation, um, stretching, and listening. And you can do that in
Mm,
all one session, rather than
mm,
Monday the talk therapy, Tuesday breath work, Wednesday yoga, Thursday ecstatic dance. I mean, that's fine if you want to do it, but I find what has is so potent with somatic dance, the way I've like began to develop it. There is a system. It's not just you just
mm,
dancing by yourself. Like we're going through an opening ceremony, preparing your body, preparing your nervous system, preparing that you're safe to do this, and then preparing the body to unwind and do the warm up, and then coming to do energizing exercises in the dance that is using breath and
Mm,
certain specific movements that are repetitive. And that repetitiveness is what begins to build the energy to begin to shake and shift. And that begins to take you to your own self expression, your dance. It can be ecstatic and it can be all sorts of things. And then we have a cool down, which is like where you then begin to slow down the heart rate, you begin to start to integrate, you begin to start to then, slow down with yourself and go a bit deeper in the layers. And then that begins to then take you to your relaxation, where you begin to
mm,
assimilate everything and consolidate. Then we have
mm,
the meditation part, which uses sound and mantra. Mantra is really a powerful way to reset, not just to reprogram the mind, is or to settle the nervous system, to
mm.
stabilize the nervous system after all that moving and shaking and purging, and to use arm movements to just to bring everything back into more centeredness and coherence. And then we have a closing. So there is a method to the magic.
I love it. And I love that you just took us through that journey of what a typical somatic dance experience might look like if
Yeah.
anyone chooses to come afterwards, to one of your sessions, which we will talk about in a moment. And yes, absolutely. I love everything that a little bit like the five rhythms, like you have created your own
System.
system, this journey to allow somebody to safely. And I think that's really important because I think some people who are listening who may have attended some kind of somatic practices in the past, I'm sure for the most part, all practitioners are trained in trauma, or I'd like to think that they are and safely conduct their workshops. But a lot of the time, if you're accessing these things and in a festival scenario, it can be quite dangerous because it might just seem like fun experiences to go out and try. And yes, they are. And I'm not discouraging you from not going out there and trying them if the opportunities arise, but also just to go a little bit cautiously. Like, if going back to that feeling in your body, if something doesn't feel right with a facilitator or maybe the space or the group of people in a space, trust that instinct. No matter how much you have said that you want to do that class and you've waited, since 9 o'clock that morning to go to that class, and you've ditched the band that's playing over there and the gig that's happening over here and the talk because you said you're going to go to this class. But if it doesn't feel right, trust that and leave, because this is really big work. It can be really big work. Not for everyone. It just really depends on what has been stored in you, what you are going through in that moment. And once that energy starts to shift, we don't know what's going to come to the surface. We really don't. And so I think if it's not facilitated in that very careful way, in the way that you've just described, where people are gently brought into the practice, are allowed to move through with guidance to bring that energy up to the surface, but then again, very importantly, to integrate it for themselves, to sit with it and assimilate it, so then they can go back to their lives safely.
Mm.
If that's not done, and that can in itself be quite dangerous, because then you've opened up, so to speak, these wounds, and they are raw and vulnerable and exposed, and maybe then you're sort of like thrust out into the world. So that's just coming up to my mind. So anybody who's listening and is like,
Mm.
oh yeah, I saw that somatic workshop advertised somewhere, X, Y, and Z, like, please, by all means, go and check it out if you're feeling called to do it. But first and foremost, listen to your body. Does it
Mm.
feel like the
Mhm.
facilitator knows what they're doing? Does it feel good, the environment that you're in?
Yeah.
Maybe even ask those questions. What do you do to help us to safely integrate this as we leave your class? Just ask, you know?
Yeah, that's a really good
Um,
point. And I mean, I'd like to complement something with that actually. The things to
mm,
look out for when
yeah.
you're going to something like this, like, how is a facilitator? That the facilitator should be embodied if they're doing this work. The facilitator should be able to hold the beginning parts where they're guiding you to self-regulation.
Mm,
The facilitator ought to be able to be conscious of the space of what's going on, give out the boundaries, the ground rules of how this is going to work. Are they asking if you've got injuries, ailments? Are they asking these questions are really important to look out for. And if something just doesn't sit right, like you were saying, maybe it's time for you to bow out for that session.
Mm,
However, the way I've done it, the way I've learned over the years and gone through different type of trainings and trauma trainings and all sorts of things like that, it's just very much about you checking in with you.
mm,
And the way I guide my trainees who work with me as well in my trainings, we always have these discussions about like, you have to be the one to put your oxygen mask on first.
mm,
You're not there to rescue anybody. You're there to facilitate a space for a sacred space for transformation. That's what it is, and that's why we use the mantras. That's why we use
mm,
these type of breathing um, exercises as well, so that the mantras are there to support the space when you're chanting
mm,
them, and that's why we also do them at the end because it's a beautiful and powerful way to let those mantras integrate into you after you've shifted and shaken so
mm,
much. Because a lot of the time when you do that, there is a void that's there. So what is that
mm,
void being filled with? What we want to do is fill it with light, fill it with
mm,
sound frequencies that are
mm,
going to raise you up. And that's why the
mm.
mantras there are really important. And that's what's been the guiding force of the way I do somatic dance.
Mm. I'm just going to offer something up as well. Thank you for that, Dirish. I think that's really important. And I wasn't expecting to have, I didn't foresee that our conversation would move in this direction, but it is very naturally. And I just feel like it is really important because it's fun that the wellness industry is expanding and growing in so many different directions. But if it's not done safely, it could really not only be harmful to an individual, but really deter people from trying other things again, and put them off from this path altogether. Um, what I would just add there is like if you do find yourself in a situation where maybe you've attended the class and it's right at the end or in the middle that you feel this is not finishing off, or maybe the facilitator doesn't integrate you back in quite the way that you need them to, or maybe you're still really new to this and you didn't pick up on those signs or to leave, and you didn't act on those signs to leave, because we've all been there, right? We've felt it. I know I have, like, get out, Dharmi, don't do it. And then I've still just stayed there like a deer in the headlights, because that's my default setting, is to freeze.
Breathe.
And then it's only in hindsight like, shit, why didn't I? But just ground yourself, guys. Like, there's so many grounding practices. The very first and easiest one is to put your hands and your feet on the ground, physically on the ground, ideally on the earth, or get a tree. Go and ask that tree to take that energy from you. You can do mantras, you can do some chanting, you can do some breath work, do whatever you can, which is whatever is within your tool set, and ground for yourself and regulate your nervous
Yeah.
system. Um,
I would also
so,
compliment as well that it's also about discerning and deciphering in the moment to moment, what it is, because you may have
mm,
a long list of, oh, I could do that, 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 but like it's really about discerning and deciphering, like,
mm,
and again, going back to that gut instinct, what is really appropriate for me right now. And
mm,
that is a
mm,
muscle that I really have been building for the longest time. The discernment
mm,
muscle, the gut instinct muscle, and the intuition muscle as well. They
yeah,
all kind of interplay with each other. So I think those
yeah,
aspects are really, really important, crucial, especially for these
yeah,
times where there's so much on the menu that can be really enticing
yeah,
and glittery. Not everything that glitters is gold, or
no,
not everything that is glitters is grounded either. So you've got to be discerning in those
yeah,
moments and those points and not get
yeah.
carried away with the superficial bright lights that are coming at you.
Yeah, 100%. And a little story of my own is coming to mind as well. And I love that you said that, because, maybe you just end up in these workshops or these classes because your girlfriend's going and they're like, I'm booked on, so come with me. And you're like, oh, okay. And then you go against your better judgment. But also that is so crucial. And unfortunately, ladies listening in, there isn't a fast track way for this, but discernment is massive. All of these things we're talking about, I hope that you're beginning to see why this work is so important, because it isn't like you can just one day say, I would love good discernment. I would love great intuition. I would love to be able to really hear and feel my body. Thank you very much, universe. I've put my order in. It just isn't going to work that way. It takes time, effort, and investment to develop these things. And that discernment again is such an essential component in this, and it's not always easy to know whether it is your gut feeling speaking to you or whether it's fear. Like fear is one of my hot topics. I love talking about fear, right? Um, and I remember a story, and I'll say this, I won't go too deep into this, but
Yeah.
um, I think it was a couple of summers ago, and I really, really wanted to sit a cacao ceremony, right? And I hadn't physically been to one, and I really wanted to sit a cacao ceremony. Went to this festival. There was this guy set up with his cacao, and he was like, I wasn't planning on doing a cacao ceremony, but if there's enough people, we'll do it. And I was like, great, put my name down. Beautiful. It was right there. It was easy. And then I just had this feeling like after I spoke to him initially, I just found his energy really intense and almost aggressive. And I wasn't sure about him as a facilitator, and everything in my body was saying, "Nuh-uh, nuh-uh, nuh-uh, I don't like him." But I also had made a connection with this gorgeous human in a couple of tents over who was a sound healer who I just felt like I had known my whole life, right? And fully just for some reason trusted. And my higher self said to me, this is where that intuition, that guidance came in and said, just go and discuss this with these random strangers. Like, why? I don't know. I don't need to know why. Just go and discuss it. So I went over to the sound healer and I says, do you know him over there? I'm not going to mention the names because he's actually quite famous. Do you know him over there? What do you reckon? And they're like, yeah, he's cool. We dig his vibe. He seems really authentic. He seems good. He seems grounded. And I trusted these two guys, right? And I had a good long chat and I spoke very openly. I was like, because this is my scenario. I manifested the cacao ceremony. I wanted to do it. Here it is. It's being presented to me. Everything's lined up. Yep, everything in my body is saying, no, I don't like his energy. And they were like, all right, cool. And we just talked it out, right? Bearing in mind, I only met these guys like 2 hours before, and I was pouring my soul out to them about asking them to help me make this decision. And they made me see that actually it wasn't him. There was nothing wrong with his energy. It was something in me. And this is where the discernment came in. It was a fear that I had. It was a expectation that I had. And actually, when I did sit it, it was one of the best ceremonies I've ever been to. And that's where this is that tricky but important work of the combination of, yes, somatically, it was like this, no, don't like his energy. But then this intuition saying, there's more to this than just what you're feeling, Dharmi. Like, sit with this, lean into it. And then there was this conversation and being guided and everything, and then making that discernment for myself, like, okay, I'm going to go. If I don't like it, I'll just walk out. I'll sit by the entrance there. I can just sneak out if I really want to. And actually, then it turns out that it was the healing that I needed, because it completely flipped these pre-existing expectations that I had about ceremony, etc. It was like the most fun I've ever had in a ceremony. We literally giggled our way through the whole thing, right? And I just wanted to share that story because it isn't straightforward, guys. It really isn't straightforward. It can be tricky to navigate this. So don't beat yourself up if you don't always make the right decisions. Don't knock yourself if you don't always discern it correctly. But keep trying, keep listening, keep building those relationships, and start to listen and feel. Maybe it's in your chest area that you feel this expansion or contraction. Maybe, like Dirish said, it's in your gut. Maybe there's a tightening somewhere else in your body but you've got to, through this somatic work, you begin to become better acquainted. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah. And also, to complement what you're saying, is every kind of niggle or something in the body is asking to be seen, is asking for your attention, it's calling for your attention. And we're not making mistakes anymore. We're learning lessons, because when we
Mm,
learn lessons, we get to move forwards. If we keep telling ourselves we're making mistakes, again, we go back into those loops, and those loops then begin to then have effect on the physical, because it all starts on the internal. Everything on the internal is expression what happens on the external. And the more
mm,
that we continue to deny or to
mm,
distract ourselves from it, the more it will keep eating at you till one day you're just sat in a hospital bed. That's the reality of it.
mm,
That is the reality, because if you're not paying attention to yourself because you're so consumed with the external, and
mm,
this is the balance of working in the somatic dance world, in the somatic therapy world, is that you get to have this balance of living from the inside out. And that is
mm,
what yoga was set up for originally, to live from the inside out.
mm.
And one of my really good favorite Disney movies is Inside Out. If you
Yes.
haven't seen it, Inside Out and Inside Out 2, it's just it's a really excellent metaphor of how we have these functions happening within us, and it really explains and demonstrates and articulates beautifully how, we have these little caricatures that are playing within us all the time, and how we get to then, again, coming back to building a relationship with your body and yourself.
Mm. Yes, 100%. Dirish, I know you and I could talk about this for another hour easily because there's just so much depth to the conversation that we're having. Um, but we are going to, I'm very conscious of your time. I want to be respectful of that as well. Now, Dirish, you have something very exciting happening in your hometown of London. I'm going to hold
Mhm.
my little
Oh,
flyer
you
up.
got it.
I got it,
Excellent, excellent,
babe. There it
excellent,
is,
excellent.
right? Would you like to tell our listeners what this is about and how people can find you, how they can get into your world? Because I'm sure after listening to you today, everyone's going to be like, I'm in. Sign me up. Where can I do this? How can I do this?
Sure. So, um, what I did last year was I launched the world's first somatic dance convention, and I didn't know that until it was brought to my attention. And it was a success. It was the first time I've ever done anything like that before, my first big live event. And I got invited back from the venue, which was amazing as well. And this year, I've brought together a theme for this, and the theme is the neuroverse, and it's really working with your own neuro divergence, or whatever you're navigating in your mental fields, to be able to use somatic work and somatic dance as a way to support that and develop yourself with that as well. And I have brought together and curated a whole day from 12:30 to 10 of different workshops, talks, facilitators, presenters. We're also going to be having a panel discussion on biointelligence and what embodied trauma looks like, with a doctor who's also one of my trainees. She's a gynecologist and a metaphysician. So we're going to have a really fascinating conversation that's going to really, whet everyone's appetite, which we're looking to do. And so, as well as always speaking about these terms online, it's really great to come together to be able to have a discussion, a conversation, an interaction. So it's not just another buzzword we see on
Mm,
socials. We actually are educated around it, and when we can walk away. And the intention is that everyone walks away much more enlightened with what somatic dances, somatic work is, and how they get to implement and integrate themselves on a daily basis. Because I
mm,
like to do a 1 minute wiggle every day, and that's just kind of integrated into my life now. So it's
yeah.
just keeping things moving, and moving and flowing. So the event is open to anybody who is interested in somatic dance, somatic movements. There's also talks as well. Like I said, we have DJs as well for the later part of the evening, a somatic sound bath, a cacao ceremony that's going to
Oh,
lead into dance. So there's lots, loads of things we are hitting to, and I'm really excited and proud because I'm bringing new blood to the event, and those who have trained with me in the past and who have developed their own thing, they're also part of the convention. So
mm,
it's a growing organism, it's a growing community that we get to all participate together, learn, grow, evolve, and expand.
sounds so good. So, ladies, if as in Dirish's own words, if this conversation has whet your appetite and you want to learn more, I would highly recommend signing up for this. Get your tickets ASAP before they sell out. It's on the 19th of April
It is.
in Shoreditch, London.
Mhm.
So easy to get to. It's very central for everybody. Not central, but everyone can get to London, right? For the
Right.
most part, anyway. Sorry, those of you tuning in from somewhere else. My apologies. But there will be loads of online things you do as well. I know that you do a Friday chakra
Shakedown.
shakedown, which are about to go in now,
Yeah, so
as
you're
well, and go do that.
anyone welcome to join that. I do it
Yeah,
every Friday, and it's a great
yeah.
way to just shake off your week, because we've all been holding stuff in our week, mentally,
Mm,
emotionally, physically, energetically, and that just kind of frees you up for the weekend,
yeah,
and then you can just start off with on a clean slate.
yeah,
And that's what these
yeah.
shakedowns are for. So
Beautiful. So, yes, Dirish has lots of online offerings as well.
I do.
And of course, there's his website. Everything's going to be linked in the show notes, ladies. So, don't worry, you don't have to scribble all this down. And we'll link it all up for you so you can get into Dirish's world. And I highly recommend you do. He holds the most beautiful space. You can clearly feel that this man has been doing this work for a long time and he's confident in when he guides you and leads you. It may not feel like it from your side, babe, but it really does. I love it. Whenever I attend Ormond based events and
Yeah,
Dirish has got something on, I'm there. I'll drop everything else and I go and do Dirish's session because I just absolutely love it. Hence why I invited
appreciate
you
it.
on. I We have a tradition
Go on.
for the guests on this show.
Okay.
And so I mentioned this to you. So these are
Hmm.
conversation cards
Yes.
by Stephen Bartlett.
Hmm.
And you agreed to answer a question. Now, there's a level one, which is
Okay.
like surface level question, level two, mid range, level three, let's go deep, babe. What would you like?
Oh, whatever popped out, whatever that was.
That was actually the instruction card.
Okay. Well,
I don't know if we need instructions.
no. Well,
Okay,
you
so
choose based on what you
I'm just going to
experienced
see
on this
what comes up
conversation.
on top here. All right, it's a level three. Of course it is. I think all of them have been so far.
Wow.
What are you missing most in your life? That's a question by Paul Brunson. What are you missing most in your life?
I don't miss. I
I was going
appreciate.
to say, can't imagine you missing.
I don't miss because for me, the word miss is like I'm a victim. I need
Mm,
something to fulfill me. I don't miss. I appreciate people,
mm,
those who have come into my life, those things have gone because I choose wholesomeness and I choose that. That
mm.
is part of the somatic work, is to, like I said, to live from the inside out. So to miss, I don't resonate with that word. So next,
I agree. I agree. When I read that, I was like, I can't see you missing anything.
no.
But that doesn't mean you wouldn't want more of
Depends how you reframe it.
things.
If you
Yeah,
were to
exactly.
reframe that, how would you reframe that question?
Well, you could reframe it. I mean, is there anything that you are perhaps wanting to call in right now that you
Call
currently
in.
don't
Okay.
have?
Okay. Well, I would say calling in more beautiful opportunities, like keeping those
Mm,
on a flow. And
mm.
I would say I'd like to call in, um, I would call in more greater health, more sunshine in my life, more of the things that I already have, and just amping up.
Yeah, I hear you.
More deeper connections, more soulful connections, more collaborations that are
Yeah.
aligned collaborations, more international collaborations. I think that would be amazing. I
Mm,
really enjoy traveling. I enjoy, like,
mm.
learning cultures and learning environments, and how my work gets to, you know, um, be a part of what they're doing, or to inform, or to elevate, expand. Yeah. So those things I'd say I'd be calling in.
Beautiful. I love it. Dirish, this has been an amazing conversation. I've so enjoyed having you on the show, as I'm sure the listeners have just as much been soaking up everything that you've been saying. And as I said, there is so much more we could go on to speak about. Maybe we could do a part two another
Let's
day.
do it.
Um, any final words you would like to leave our listeners with?
Well, number one, I would like to say I'm just really, really happy and grateful I got to do this with you. And, congratulations to you for doing this. I think, you're a terrific interviewer, and it's been an honor to have this conversation with you. And everyone that's listening, I think, well, I know in my bones is that this work works. And if you allow it to move you, it will move you. And to places that you wouldn't even ever imagine. And
Yeah.
so I trust that this interview has, sparked you, reminded you, inspired you to kind of do something differently for yourself, that you're going to come back into the wholesomeness of you, because you're great. You're amazing, you're beautiful, you're all of those things. It's getting out of the way of the stuff that keeps us not from reminding ourselves that we are those things, and we can continue to polish that on a daily basis. Small steps leads to the bigger
Yes.
piece in our life, and the more
Yeah.
we do that. And I say it's very easy to, you can brush your teeth daily, then you can do something for yourself that's going to be a 1 minute wiggle or a session or whatever it is, to keep your energy up, to keep your energy moving and flowing, because energy
Mm.
spirals upwards, and that is the natural law. So we following that by doing the things that keep us uplifted, and authentically doing it. And I think being truly beautiful, be you till you are full.
Ah, I love that. I'm so going to steal that.
Do it.
I love
Take it.
it.
Be you till you're full.
Beautiful. Be you until you are full.
Full.
Ah, okay.
There you go.
Great words to finish on. Thank you, Dirish. As
Pleasure.
always, have an amazing Friday shakedown. Thank you so much.
Take care, Manuel. Big
You
hug.
too. Bye. Thank you for joining me on this episode of High Self Mastery. If something landed, moved you, or sparked a shift, I'd love to hear from you. Be sure to follow, subscribe, and share this episode with a woman in your life that is also ready to rise. And if you found value in today's conversation, please take a moment to rate and review this podcast, especially in these early days. It really helps others to find this work too. If you're craving deeper support and sisterhood, join my mailing list using the link below, where you'll be the first to receive free meditations, learn about up-and-coming retreats, and other ways that we can work together. Until next time, honor your truth and trust in the timing of your becoming.